Hi there. Welcome to Reddit Confessions. If you've ever wondered what betrayal smells like, for me, it was white wine and honey lavender hand cream. That scent still makes me nauseous. Because when I pulled out the chair across from her, the one she thought would be taken by someone else, she froze with the glass halfway to her lips. Her fingers stiffened. Her eyes locked onto mine like she'd seen a ghost rise out of her guilt. And for a full 5 seconds, she didn't move, didn't blink, didn't even breathe. That was the moment I knew. The man she was waiting for wasn't her husband. It was someone else. Someone she'd been lying about for months. But let me rewind. Not all the way back to how we met or how we fell in love. No, that's not this kind of story. You're not here for fairy tales. You're here for what I saw when I followed breadcrumbs made of lies. It started with a reservation. Delaney, my wife, she made it on our shared open table account. She forgot I got email notifications. Rookie move. The reservation was for two, at a quiet bistro we used to go to back when things were good. Romantic, dim lights, handwritten menus, jazz playing from a real upright bass in the corner. We hadn't been there together in over a year. I checked the date. It wasn't our anniversary. Not her birthday. Just a Thursday. At 7:30. No mention of it to me. I wanted to confront her right away. Ask why she was booking dinner for two on a night I was supposedly out of town for a conference. A conference she reminded me of 3 times that week. But I didn't. Because I knew. Somewhere deep down, in that hollowed-out part of me I'd been ignoring, I knew something was off. So I lied instead. Told her the event got canceled last minute. Some weather delay excuse. She pretended to be surprised. She faked it well. The little gasp. The, "Oh, that's too bad, babe." But her hands twitched as she reached for her phone. I watched her thumbs move under the table. Probably texting him. I wanted to scream. I didn't. I just smiled. Because I already had a plan. Thursday came. She spent 2 hours getting ready. Hair curled. Nails painted the shade she usually reserves for work functions. She wore the perfume I bought her for our 4th anniversary. The one she claimed was too strong for everyday use. When she left, she kissed me like I was a friend. A polite, meaningless peck. And then she walked out the door into the arms of someone else's excitement. I waited 15 minutes. Then I changed. Put on the blazer I hadn't worn since my sister's wedding. Drove across town in silence. Parked where she couldn't see me. Walked into the restaurant at 7:32. The hostess smiled and asked, "Are you joining someone?" I pointed at the table in the back. That one. And then, I pulled out the chair across from her. She didn't expect to see me. Not even close. And that's where this story truly begins. Her glass clinked softly against the table as she set it down with trembling fingers. That was the only sound in the space between us. For a restaurant known for soft jazz and lively murmurs, it suddenly felt like the world had gone silent. I watched her mouth open, slightly parted, dry, speechless. That alone told me everything. Because Delaney always had something to say. Always had a counterpoint, a clever line, a way to deflect. But right then, her face didn't carry guilt. It carried fear. Pure, wide-eyed fear. Not the kind you get when you're caught lying, but the kind when you're caught by someone you thought was too stupid, too soft, too safe to figure it all out. And maybe I was. Maybe I had been all those things. But I never stopped listening. That's what she forgot. She used to tell her friends I was boring. I overheard once. Said I was comfortable, like a hoodie you wear at home but wouldn't be caught dead in outside. She laughed when she said it. They laughed too. But they didn't know that I was standing in the hallway. That I stood there for 10 minutes after, blinking at the light switch, wondering when I became someone you hide away. So yeah, I listened. I listened when she started taking solo trips that matched up with conference dates for some local trainers' fitness retreats. A man whose face I later recognized on her private Instagram stories. The ones she forgot were still linked to my old burner account from our dog's page. I listened when she practiced lies in the mirror. She had this little ritual she didn't realize she did. Repeating things out loud as she put on mascara. I once caught her muttering, "It's just a meeting. Just a dinner. Just clients." No one practices that unless it's a performance. But I never said anything. I was gathering, watching, waiting. And now here we were, at the table she reserved for someone who wasn't me. In the place where we used to slow dance near the restrooms after dessert. I wanted to scream at her. Ask her how long. Ask her why. But instead, I just leaned forward, elbows on the table, and said, "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was murder." That broke her trance. She blinked rapidly and laughed. A short, nervous, desperate laugh, like she might still find an exit. But I didn't let her have it. You didn't think I'd show up, huh? I said. Or did you? She cleared her throat and reached for the wine again. Vernon, what are you doing here? You booked the table, sweetheart. I just figured I'd surprise you. Isn't that what you've been craving? Surprises? She looked around, scanning the room like someone about to pull the fire alarm. I could see the panic building in her throat, and for once in my life, I didn't offer her a way out. Instead, I pulled something out of my coat pocket, a small white envelope, and slid it across the table. Her hand hovered over it. What is this? She asked, her voice tight. Open it. She did. And inside, she found two things. A printed photo, grainy but unmistakable. Her, standing with her hand on a man's chest, kissing him in the lobby of the Parker building. The timestamp didn't lie. It was last Thursday. She told me she was at her sister's helping with a sick niece. And beneath it, a receipt for a hotel room. Her name. His credit card. My account. I paid for it. I traced the charge days ago. She never saw it coming. The color drained from her face. She folded the photo and receipt and set them down like they might burn her fingers. Then she looked at me. Really looked at me. And for once, I saw a flicker of something real. Vernon, she started, her voice cracking. I'm not here to fight, I interrupted. Then why are you here? She whispered. Because I wanted you to feel it, I said. The moment your world starts to come undone. She didn't reply, didn't even blink. I stood up, gently tucked my chair in, and said, finish the wine. I know he's not coming anymore. And I walked out, past the hostess, past the table where we once celebrated her promotion, out into the cold night where the truth finally felt like oxygen again. But this wasn't over. It was only the beginning. The cold didn't hit me until I was already halfway down the street. I remember the air slicing through my blazer like paper, not sharp enough to hurt, just enough to remind me that I was alive, that I had just detonated something. And now, all I could do was walk. I didn't even go to my car. I just kept moving, past the bakery where she once dragged me at 6 a.m. to try croissants she saw on TikTok, past the bus stop where we argued about whether we'd have kids someday, past the florist that still had her favorite, stargazer lilies, displayed in the window like some cruel inside joke. By the time I circled back to the car, my phone had blown up with missed calls. 22, to be exact. All from Delaney. No voicemails. Just call after call, each one more frantic than the last. I sat there, staring at the screen, watching it buzz again in my palm. And I didn't pick up. Not because I was being strong, but because I was afraid of hearing her voice, afraid it might break whatever thin wall I had managed to build between rage and heartbreak. Eventually, the buzzing stopped. Silence again. That kind of silence that feels heavier than sound. I turned the key, started the car, and drove. Not home. Not to a friend's. Just nowhere. I ended up in a 24-hour laundromat parking lot. I didn't need to wash anything. I just needed somewhere that didn't smell like her. I sat for hours, thinking, trying to piece it together. Not just the affair, but everything around it. The erosion, the quiet detachment, the way I started sleeping on the edge of the bed without noticing, the way she started giving one-word answers like fine and sure instead of real thoughts. It was never about some handsome trainer or hotel rooms. That was just the eruption. The real betrayal started long before that, when I stopped being someone she saw. At 2:37 a.m. She texted, please come home, please. No punctuation, no name, no apology, just a plea into the void. I didn't respond. I drove back at dawn, not to confront her again, but to get my essentials. I parked around the block, just in case she was waiting by the window. And she was. I saw her silhouette pacing behind the curtains, still in the dress, hair now limp, the posture of someone unraveling. Good. Inside, I moved like a burglar. I packed a duffel bag with my charger, a few clothes, my hard drives, my toothbrush, and Milo, of course. He meowed once, confused, but nestled into the carrier like he knew we were getting out. She came down the stairs barefoot, mascara smudged under her eyes. Vernon, she said, her voice cracked, like she'd swallowed dust. Please talk to me. I didn't look at her. I zipped the bag slowly, deliberately. You blindsided me, she said. I didn't know you knew. You just showed up. You've been showing up for someone else for months, I said without turning around. I just finally returned the favor. She stepped closer. I could hear her feet scuff against the hardwood. It wasn't serious, she said. It was stupid. A mistake. A long mistake, I replied, finally meeting her eyes. With room service and secret yoga classes and perfume I paid for. Tears welled in her eyes. But I didn't trust them. I couldn't. I don't love him, she said quickly now. It didn't mean anything. I studied her face, the face I used to memorize like a favorite photograph. It looked different now. Familiar, but distant. Like a stranger who just happened to wear my wife's skin. Then why did you wait until I caught you to say any of this? I asked quietly. She didn't have an answer. Just silence again. Our shared language, these days. I grabbed the bag, slung it over my shoulder, and picked up Milo's carrier. Where are you going? She asked, panicked. I'm not sure, I said. But it'll be somewhere you never thought to meet someone behind my back. She reached out. Vernon, wait. Please. But I didn't. I walked past her, past the photos on the wall, past the wine glasses she bought without asking, past the kitchen where I once proposed to her with a ring hidden in a bowl of soup because I thought it was cute and quirky. I walked out, and the door didn't slam. It clicked, softly, finally. But what came next? I never expected. Not the letter she left on the dashboard. Not the email from the man she cheated with. Not the secret inside that envelope. The one that made me question everything I thought I knew. I didn't see the envelope until I stopped for gas 3 towns over. It was wedged under my windshield wiper, damp with condensation, but still sealed tight. No name on it. No return address. Just my name scribbled in Delaney's handwriting. The same handwriting that used to leave me love notes in my lunch bag when she still pretended to miss me during the day. I stared at it for a long time. Part of me didn't want to touch it, like it might explode into smoke and lies the moment I opened it. But curiosity is a stubborn parasite, and it always finds a way to eat through your resolve. I tore it open in the car, the dome light flickering overhead as I unfolded the paper inside. No fancy stationery, no greeting. Just a short message written with what looked like a shaking hand. You don't know everything. You think you do, but you don't. I never wanted to hurt you. I was drowning. I needed something, anything, to feel alive again. And I made mistakes. But so did you. Don't pretend you were perfect. D. I stared at it, reading it again and again, until the words blurred. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even a confession. It was a dodge. A thinly veiled slap in the face wearing a silk glove. She wanted me to share the blame now, to carry part of the weight for the affair she chose, the deception she maintained, the lies she fed me night after night while I massaged her feet and told her she was still the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. I was running on fumes, both emotionally and literally. Milo let out a small yawn from the carrier's seat beside me, and for a brief moment, I envied him. No betrayal, no broken vows, just a nap and a window view. I crumpled the letter and tossed it onto the floor. Then I checked my email. I don't know why, maybe habit, maybe spite, but what I found made my heart drop in a way that no letter ever could. There, sitting in my inbox, was an email from someone I didn't recognize, subject line, "You deserve to know the truth." I opened it, thinking it might be spam or some cruel prank. But it wasn't. It was from Ethan, the man Delaney had been seeing behind my back. Except it wasn't what I expected. His message started like a confession and ended like a warning. Vernon, you don't know me, but I know you. I know how you've been humiliated. And I know I'm part of the reason. I want to say I'm sorry, but I know that's useless right now. What matters is that Delaney hasn't been honest with either of us. She told me you were separated, said you were emotionally distant and sleeping in separate rooms. She never mentioned the dinners you cooked or the anniversary trip you were planning. I found that out the hard way. The night you showed up instead of me? That wasn't just shocking for her. It was shocking for me too, because she lied to me. She made me think I was helping her escape something toxic. But I see now, I was just another secret she thought she could control. I didn't sign up to be anyone's weapon. I'm done with her. And you should be too. You seem like a good guy. You deserve someone who doesn't play chess with hearts. Ethan. I read it twice, then a third time. And with each pass, a strange blend of emotions rose in my chest. Confusion, anger, pity, but above all, validation. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining things. She didn't just betray me. She orchestrated a narrative where I was the villain. where she was the victim escaping a cold, loveless marriage. It wasn't just cheating, it was calculated reinvention. I don't know how long I sat there in that gas station lot. The world outside started to lighten, pale gray streaks crawling across the sky like ink in water. I felt like I had just climbed out of a tunnel and was now standing on the edge of a cliff, realizing for the first time just how far I'd let myself fall. I started driving again, but this time, I wasn't running away. I was heading towards something. Not revenge, not confrontation. Something quieter, but more dangerous, truth. Because if Delaney was rewriting our story, I was going to make sure I still had a voice in it. I was going to pull every thread, dig into every memory, ask every question I was once too afraid to voice. And what I discovered next, hidden in a forgotten cloud backup I hadn't checked in years, changed everything I thought I knew about our marriage. It wasn't just about the affair. It was about the beginning, and a lie that had been living under our roof since before we even said, I do. There's something strange about stumbling across a version of your life you forgot existed. Or maybe you just chose not to see it clearly the first time around. That morning, after reading Ethan's email, I couldn't bring myself to go to a hotel or call a friend or even sleep. My mind was too loud. Too many tangled pieces knocking into each other. Instead, I pulled into the back lot of an old co-working space I used to rent when I first launched my side business. The building was locked, the lights were off, but the Wi-Fi still auto-connected. I sat there in the parking spot like a ghost visiting his own grave and opened my laptop. Delaney never knew about the backup. It was something I set up during our second year of marriage, when I was still obsessed with organizing every part of our digital lives. Joint calendars, shared password vaults, expense trackers, and yes, even a private cloud archive. It was the kind of thing she always rolled her eyes at. You treat life like it's a puzzle to solve, she once said. Maybe she was right. But now that puzzle was the only thing holding me together. The folder was labeled Shared Memories. Inside were synced backups of our old shared iCloud albums, message logs from our first phones, and even voicemails I'd downloaded before we upgraded to a new carrier. I hadn't opened any of it in years. At first, it was like walking through a museum. There were photos from our camping trip to the Upper Peninsula, both of us soaked and laughing under a ripped tarp. There were screenshots of recipe ideas she'd sent me during lunch breaks, little voice notes where she called me her forever person, and even a recording of her singing off-key in the kitchen while baking. For a brief second, I wondered if I had imagined the woman she became. But nostalgia is a liar, and I knew better now. Then I found the messages. A buried folder full of WhatsApp exports, ones I didn't even remember archiving. Apparently, at one point, Delaney had synced her old phone to our home computer, and her chats were pulled into the backup. I clicked through a few, expecting old chats with friends or her mom. But then I saw one thread marked simply K. I hesitated. Something about it felt wrong. Like trespassing in a room that didn't belong to me anymore. Except it did belong to me. Every part of it did. So I clicked. What I saw wasn't recent. In fact, the thread ended over 6 years ago, months before we got married. But the damage it did in that moment far outweighed the affair. It wasn't flirtation. It wasn't emotional venting. It was planning. Conversations with a man named Kyle. I remembered him vaguely. Some guy from her office back then. She always said he was just loud, not serious. Apparently, that wasn't true. They talked about me. About our engagement. About how she wasn't sure she loved me the way she was supposed to. How I was too stable, too safe. But maybe that was the best she could do long term. And then came the part that broke me. Let him think he won. I'm tired of starting over. At least Vernon won't cheat. He's loyal. Predictable. We can build a life, and I'll figure out the rest when I need to. Those words hit harder than anything I'd found in hotel receipts or lipstick-stained collars. Because they weren't just about infidelity. They were about intent. About choosing a future with me not out of love, but convenience. I wasn't her partner. I was her insurance policy. A placeholder for the life she didn't have the courage to chase, and a silent witness to all the things she never admitted wanting. I sat there for hours. I couldn't even cry. I was beyond crying. My skin felt too tight. My breath too shallow. Milo nudged my arm at some point, probably sensing I was slipping into some quiet spiral. I looked down at him and whispered, I was never enough for her, huh? He didn't answer, of course. but the silence between us felt kinder than anything Delaney had given me in years. That night, I didn't go back to confront her. I didn't send her the screenshots. I didn't scream or post anything public. I started something else. I pulled out the burner phone I kept in a drawer, a leftover from a tech job I'd done years ago, and began creating a folder of everything. Proof, documents, messages, images, audio, not to humiliate her, but to protect myself. Because if Delaney had been playing chess all this time, I was done being the pawn. I still didn't know exactly what she'd say when confronted with the old messages. I didn't know if she even remembered writing them. But one thing had become painfully clear: the affair wasn't the betrayal. It was just the symptom. The betrayal happened years ago. And what I was about to do next, it wasn't revenge. It was clarity, the kind that comes right before the storm. The next time I saw Delaney, she was standing beneath a pink and gold balloon arch holding a mimosa and pretending to be the world's most supportive sister. Her voice, high and sweet, was drifting through the chatter like perfume. I watched from the corner of the banquet hall, unnoticed. She had no idea I'd been invited. Technically, I wasn't. But her cousin, Madeline, saw my name still listed on the shared family calendar and, out of habit or pity, sent me the details. I told her I wouldn't come. I meant it when I said it. But plans change when clarity burns hot behind your ribs. The baby shower was at a rented event space. One of those airy converted barns that looks like it was designed exclusively for Instagram. Fairy lights, rustic chairs, faux greenery. All of it felt too pure for what I was about to do. And yet, the irony made it poetic. Delaney was glowing in the worst way, overcompensating. Too loud, too charming, laughing half a second too early at her own jokes. She clinked glasses with her sister's friends and handed out party favors like a Hallmark heroine. No one suspected that 6 days earlier, she had sobbed into my voicemail at 2 a.m. after realizing I wasn't coming home. She still hadn't mentioned the messages I found. Still hadn't confessed to anything more than getting emotionally confused. But that day, in that dreamy, flower-scented venue, I gave her the opportunity to come clean. Publicly, gracefully. It started with a card. A cream-colored envelope, placed innocently on the gift table. No name on the front. Just a tiny heart sticker in the corner. Inside it was a letter, handwritten in blue ink. My handwriting. And folded beneath it, 2 printed screenshots. One from her old chat with Kyle. One from a recent thread with Ethan, the man she was seeing the night I showed up instead of him. The letter didn't attack. It didn't curse. It didn't humiliate. It simply laid out the truth. What I knew. What I saw. And what I forgave, but wouldn't forget. I signed it with a single sentence. You started this in private. You'll end it with the truth. I left the envelope sitting slightly raised on top of a diaper cake. Subtle, easy to spot if she walked by. And then I waited. I watched her open it 20 minutes later, just before cake was served. She slid the card out casually, assuming it was another cutesy message about motherhood and blessings and joy. She unfolded the letter with the same careless smile she gave to everyone that day. But when she saw the first line, her expression changed instantly. It wasn't shock this time. It was recognition. And then dread. Her hands trembled. Her lips parted, barely moving as she read the words I wrote. Her eyes darted toward the room, scanning faces like she thought someone else might be reading over her shoulder. Then came the screenshots. The color in her face vanished. She looked ill, not heartbroken, not angry, genuinely unwell. I didn't approach her. I didn't need to. She knew I was there. I made sure of it. She turned slowly, scanning the room, and locked eyes with me standing just beyond the refreshments table. I didn't wave. I didn't nod. I just stared. For once, I watched her try to perform and fail. The woman who always had a polished explanation, a sweet spin, a twist to justify her story, was now standing speechless in the middle of a party she couldn't control. She walked toward me like she was underwater, each step slow, almost hesitant. She didn't stop until we were face to face, away from the crowd. You shouldn't be here, she said in a cracked whisper. I shrugged. Neither should the version of you I found in those messages. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. The same way she did years ago when she couldn't explain why she forgot our anniversary, but remembered to post a picture of a co-worker's birthday lunch. It was her tell. When the performance failed, she shut down. Why now, she asked. I leaned in just enough for only her to hear. Because you built a stage. I figured you deserved an audience. She flinched like I slapped her, but I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I didn't need to. I was done being the husband who quietly carried her excuses. The man who apologized for making her feel trapped when all I did was love her too safely. The guy who tiptoed around her moods, who played the role of the steady one while she auditioned for other lives behind my back. I don't want to lose you, she whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't think you'd ever. You didn't think I'd find my spine, I interrupted. But here we are. And I left. Just walked out. Past the balloons. Past the guests. Past the woman who once vowed forever and then redefined it on her terms. I thought that would be the final blow. But I was wrong. Because when I got back to the temporary place I was staying that night, I found something waiting for me. A document slipped under the door, with my name on it, and her lawyer's letterhead. I never imagined I'd be afraid to open a manila envelope. But that night, sitting on a borrowed couch in a temporary apartment that still smelled like the last tenant's cologne, I stared at the thin packet with my name typed across the front like it was a bomb. In a way it was, because even though it weighed less than a pound, everything inside it made the last 6 years of my life feel suddenly heavy, suffocatingly heavy. I had no warning, no call, no text, no cryptic email or "we need to talk" message. Just the cold click of the mail slot and the whisper of paper sliding across tile. Delaney's lawyer, or more accurately, the man she must have hired in the short time since the baby shower, was initiating a preliminary request for separation. That's what the letter said. Not divorce. Not mediation. Separation. It sounded polite. Civilized. Like a tea break from marriage. But what hit me harder was the phrasing in the attached document. The terms. She wanted the house. She wanted the car. She wanted spousal support. She claimed emotional distress. She cited unpredictable behavior. She wrote that I'd humiliated her in a public family event. That part nearly made me laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was so perfectly backwards. I was the villain now. The man who had been betrayed, gaslit, emotionally steamrolled, was now the one she wanted to paint as unstable. Dangerous, even. She even included a brief statement about my growing paranoia and obsessive behaviors involving surveillance. Let me be clear, I never hacked her phone. I never followed her with a camera. The most invasive thing I did was log into a backup she forgot existed. A backup on a device she used willingly, and which she never asked me to erase. But now, in black and white, her version of events was taking shape, and it was terrifyingly clean. I stared at the paper for what felt like hours. Milo lay curled on the corner of the couch, blissfully unaware that everything I thought I still had was slipping out from under me. This wasn't about a failed marriage anymore. This was war, and I was losing. The next morning, I met with a lawyer of my own, a quiet man named Clark who specialized in messy things like this. I told him everything, from the fake yoga classes to the envelope at the baby shower to the years-old messages I'd uncovered. He listened carefully, without interruption, and when I finished, he sat back and said something that caught me completely off guard. "You're going to have to decide," he said, "if this is about justice or if it's about reclaiming peace. You may not be able to get both." It hit me like a gut punch, because until that moment, I thought I was still trying to save something, my dignity, maybe, or the story I thought my life was supposed to be. But Clark was right. The more I fought, the more ground I gave up. My sleep, my sanity, my time. Every conversation became a courtroom in my head. Every silence from Delaney felt like a strategy. And yet, giving up felt like losing twice. That night, I found myself doing something strange. I opened the voice memos app on my phone and started recording myself. Not for a podcast, not for evidence, just to hear it out loud. I spoke for nearly 40 minutes. About the day we met. The first time she laughed so hard she snorted. The way she used to draw tiny hearts in the corners of shopping lists. I talked about how I used to believe that being loyal, being consistent, would be enough. That if I just waited out her restlessness, she'd eventually come back to me fully. I admitted things I'd never said before. That I sometimes saw the distance long before I had proof. That I ignored my gut because the idea of being alone scared me more than being unloved. And then, near the end of the recording, I said the thing that finally broke me. I wasn't just grieving the affair. I was grieving the version of me that thought I was impossible to leave. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor, listening to that memo play on repeat until the sun came up. The next morning, I made one final decision. Not out of spite, not out of revenge, but to reclaim my voice, the one she tried to erase under legalese and silence. I sent her a letter. Handwritten. Just a single page. It didn't contain threats. No accusations. No rebuttals. It simply said this. You don't get to rewrite who I was. You don't get to win a war you started in secret. And you don't get to claim the ending, because I've already written mine. You'll hear it when it plays for everyone else. She didn't know what that meant. Not yet. But she would. Because what she didn't realize was that everything she tried to bury, the affair, the manipulation, the coldness, the lies, was no longer just something I carried alone. Soon, it would all be part of a story that no one could ignore. 3 weeks after I mailed Delaney that letter, I stood on stage at a community storytelling event downtown, the kind where people share real stories about love, mistakes, and all the things we don't post online. The room wasn't big, maybe 60 people. Some sipping wine, some scribbling in little notepads. I was the last speaker of the night. My voice cracked at first. My hands shook. But I didn't read from a script. I told the truth. I told them everything. Not just about the affair, or the fake yoga classes, or the envelope at the baby shower, but about the slow way love sometimes fades without either person noticing. About how I confuse stability with connection. About the danger of mistaking being chosen for being loved. And how sometimes, the worst betrayal doesn't come from being lied to, but from realizing you've spent years building a life on a foundation someone else was already digging out from under. I didn't name her. I didn't shame her. I didn't need to. Because the point wasn't punishment. It was freedom. After I finished, the crowd was silent for a few seconds. Then they clapped. Not politely. Not out of pity. But like they understood. Like they'd been there too, in some way. That moment did something to me I didn't expect. It made me feel seen for the first time in a long time. Not as a victim, or a winner, or the boring safe guy she once described, but as a man who survived being forgotten. Delaney never responded to my letter, but I heard through mutual acquaintances that she dropped the separation claim. Apparently, she moved into her sister's guest room and needed time to process everything. I didn't follow up. I didn't chase. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't standing still anymore. I signed the lease on a small place closer to the lake. Nothing fancy. But it's mine. I started taking photos again, something I gave up when life got too heavy. Milo's become my accidental sidekick, usually curled up next to the window where the morning light hits just right. And last week, believe it or not, I went on a date. Her name's Leah. We met at the same storytelling event. She said she liked how honest I was. Said it was rare. We've only been out twice, and I'm not rushing anything. I don't need to, because I'm not building anything on borrowed love anymore. I'm building something real, slowly, thoughtfully, piece by piece. So, yeah, maybe she thought I'd fall apart. Maybe she thought she broke me. But she didn't. I healed. Quietly. Fully. On my terms. And this time, the last word was mine. Thank you for watching Reddit Confessions. If you made it this far, we want to hear from you. What part of this story hit you the hardest? And have you ever found the strength to walk away when you deserved more? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if this story moved you. Until next time, take care of your peace. It's worth more than any apology you'll never get.